All right, so let's get into then EndNote. Now, EndNote, there is one lesson and one demo of EndNote in the course. It's not a comprehensive review of all the features in EndNote. In fact, what I teach in the course about EndNote is that I thought I needed to learn EndNote, but in reality, I didn't really need to use all of its own features. The most important thing to me was citing as I write when I get into Microsoft Word. And then if you look at that, on the top right there is your list of references. So now all the PDFs and sources that you get, you're going to populate into your EndNote reference library, and you're going to be able to sort them and manage them and view them according to the different fields of the citation. Now you can set up your window slightly differently, but what I do is in the bottom right, I have a visual of that PDF, okay, just on the bottom right-hand side, so I can also see what I'm looking at. And then in the middle there, you see the citation. Now that citation is exactly what will pop up in your list of references at the end of your document that you're writing. Obviously, the actual citation in the document will be based on the referencing style. Like I've shown you, IEEE is just the number, or humanities is the surname and the year, for example. But what you see there is what's going to pop up in the list of references. Then on the left-hand side is just a folder structure. And I thought that I needed to do that a lot more than I did. And it ended up not being all that useful to me. But what it could be for is if you've got multiple writing projects on the go, you can group references around different projects, or writing projects or assignments, etc., that you need to work through. But what I do want to direct you to is that stars on the right-hand side there. So you see just there's a rating. So we were talking about ratings just now of books and courses, and I really do please ask you guys to go and rate my courses and my books or anything that you consume on the Student Success Coach podcast. But in exactly the same way that you would do that here, you can go and rate your references in EndNote. And for me, this was the single biggest, most useful feature of EndNote. Because what it meant was, if I rated a reference 5 stars, okay, now you're not going to be able to read all your references end to end. You're not going. It's just impossible. What you will be able to do is get a quick sense of how useful you think that might be when you come to writing up your report. And if you are fairly certain that you need to include that reference in your final report, give it 5 stars. If you're not sure, it's a good reference. You're not sure if it's 100% relevant, give it maybe 3 stars. And if it's totally relevant, you don't even need to worry about it. 1 star. You've got it there and it's on your list. Okay. Now, when you come to actually writing, remember what I said to you. Yes, you need to cite as you write, but you also need to try and remember somehow all these wonderful references that you've got available. And the way that you do that is to sort your list of references on that rating column there. Now, guys, I promise you now, I'm a real person sitting here. I got my PhD last year. I went through and I used EndNote. I, cited as I wrote, but this feature was so powerful because when I was sitting late at night and I was trying to remember all the references that I had been through, it would have been impossible for me to scroll through the list of authors, or to scroll through the subject or the topic or the title or the conference or the journal. If I had rated that reference at the time that I read it, and I downloaded it off the internet quickly, or I got it in an email from my supervisor, and I gave it a 3 or 4 or 5 star, when I clicked that rating column, it put all of my 5-star rated references at the top. And I could quickly look through, oh, remember that 5-star reference that I got there? Oh, I forgot about that one. Now, you can also obviously group them. So maybe there's different areas of your topic, and that's what that folder structure is also useful on the left-hand side there for you. But I honestly, guys, didn't get to that level of sophistication. I just got to the level of thinking about whether this reference was going to be useful for me to include or not, or maybe I wasn't sure. And I used that 5-star referencing system, and you can see there that is not something that comes through with the reference. That rating is something you give to the reference. And when you're sitting scrambling to try and submit and cite as you go, that is what's going to be useful. Okay, so Leandri says the course is very insightful. Thank you. I've been using EndNote for the past 3 years, but still found the tips very useful, especially the star rating system. So thank you very much, Leandri. And I think just on that note, let's put the course link there for you guys to go and grab. Please do enroll as soon as possible, because that link that I give you, and it's the same whenever I provide free courses in these webinars, it's good for 3 days. After that, it goes back to normal price. You can share that link with anybody as well if you want to, but the enrollment lasts, I opened it up about half an hour ago, so from that point for the next 3 days, it's available. Go and enroll, share it if you want to, as many people that can get benefit from it, can take advantage of that. Leandri, looks like you've got a couple of degrees there in your profile picture. So you're talking with some credibility about the course, which is fantastic. You've been using EndNote for the past 3 years, still found the tips useful. So Leandri, when are we going to do a course together and we can go through all the features of EndNote? Because I think you probably got a lot more learnings about EndNote than I do. I think I was a bit of a hacker. I just used EndNote to the degree that it helped me graduate with the minimum amount of stress and the minimum amount of time that I had to spend on referencing. So Leandri, looks like you're quite the expert there. Okay, and there's the referencing system that I mentioned that Leandri talks about. That's just a zoom in there, that rating there. So now remember, you're going to have so many references, and some of them are repeated, and some of them are from the same conference, and you can't remember the authors. Just use the referencing system, use the rating system that I talk about in there. David Biggs wants to know about EndNote versus Mendeley, if someone has experience with both. David, sure. Come in the community, maybe ask the question there as well. People might have experience with Mendeley. I don't know too much about Mendeley. Paul says, I'm still doing my degree, and I'd like to know if it's possible to download EndNote for free, and where can one download it? Paul, some universities do have arrangements with EndNote, or whoever makes EndNote, to give you a student license. I luckily had a bursary with my employer, so they paid for any of the tools that I needed. I just needed to submit an expense claim. But I, just off the top of my head, don't think they do provide a free student license on their website, but maybe through your university